Very good morning, Satish. Very warm welcome as well. Thank you for joining.
Morning, Sharif. Morning, everyone.
We heard your welcome as well. We saw a lot of statistics and how things have moved forward. It has been I think like fourth or fifth year for you, Satish, to share with us the trends in the industry which is happening.
I think it's been longer, Sharif.
Okay. I don't know why we call it fireside chat, Satish. I somehow want to call it iceberg chat as well. Let's have an iceberg. But we'll try and make it as fire as possible. I think, starting from, welcome address from Jaideep and his opening keynote, where he really talked about that today, whatever we do as a country, we still lag much behind in the healthcare perspective as relatively compared to any other developing countries and developed countries. So there's a big gap of doctors, nurses, infrastructure, hospitals, and so on. Then we heard how public-private partnership from Sudarshan Jain can actually create a little bit of a solution to move in the right direction. I think that's pretty much what we come. Panel discussions about systemic shock. So you can see the story developing. You can see how changes have been developing. Let's spend next 15 minutes looking at from an investor's lens, Satish. How is investor looking at the healthcare sector? And I really want to start my discussion with historical pre-COVID environment, right?
Yeah.
Healthcare has been let me say a hot seat discussion many a times, and health tech has been a big discussion as well before the pandemic happened. We saw almost $5 billion of investment happening from 2017 to 2019. Around 300 odd deals. But in 2020, we look at almost $2.36 billion of investment happening, around 108 deals happening, right? Now, this is a stark change. So give us a view as an investor has changed from historical to the current pandemic perspective. And what are the factors which you think have changed over the period of history?
No, sure. Yeah, I think when we say healthcare, at least most people would look at it in two broad buckets. One is healthcare services per se, which includes medtech, health tech, everything, provider of services.
Yeah.
And the second large bucket is pharma, life sciences. So broadly, if you look at it, healthcare services has been like an area of interest. Very traditionally, I mean, if I have to even take a few years or a few decades step back, supply has always lagged demand, and provision of supply has more come from the private sector. I think the government has chosen to play the role of a regulator and hence left the provider space to the private sector. Now, this is a long gestation period. If you take hospitals, it is investment heavy, has long gestation periods, and that's where private equity has played a role in terms of actually providing that long-term capital, taking a long-term view. And I think as time has moved forward, even the hospital systems and players have got used to private equity players in terms of what do they look for, how do they interact. They've got comfortable with them, even if earlier there was a certain aversion to taking private equity capital. I think that system has matured. And I think that was an attraction for most investors to be in the healthcare services. Now, as time has moved forward, and of course, there were considerable investment in pharma too, both in the domestic side and in the pharma manufacturing side, which is for the export markets. I think as time has moved forward, somewhere, and we've been covering in the last at least four VC circle conferences, I think on the healthcare services of the hospital, there is a bit of a lag or a dip. Various changes happening in the market in terms of regulations, pricing. I think overall there has been a little level of uncertainty in the private players' mind in terms of what is the business outlook, how stable, how should they plan around capacity, what type of margins. Maybe that has led to a bit of a dip in supply creation, which was what private players used to do. And the reason I mentioned that from an investor lens is that's our opportunity to invest in private players. If they are not doing the supply creation, it's so much less opportunity for us to actually find opportunities to actually invest that capital. Maybe that's, I view it as temporary. I'm sure we can discuss as we move forward in terms of how people should look at it, what are the future changes that we expect. So I think that's one change. In the same note, there are not related to this, but there are several geopolitics in terms of environmental challenges in other countries have led to create great opportunities in India for the pharma space, especially in pharma manufacturing, be it in API for generics or in terms of development for innovator companies. I think that's taken off quite a bit over the last 2-3 years, even more aggravated during these COVID times. And I think that's been an area of interest for everyone. And we can see that as you look through the investments, that plays out. So I just want to add one thing on the trend of investments, but because that's a traditional few slides that I present every healthcare investment, and I'd just taken the liberty to just re-look at the data. We always take this 12-month cut to the investor to the VC Circle conference. Every time I look from October 1st to September 30th, because we are doing this in December, I changed the cut now to November 30th. So very strangely, and the data surprised me. I think there is, of course, a small dip in terms of number of investments, in the terms of if you look at the number of deals. But the strange thing for me was the increase in PE investments in healthcare side over the last 3 years, and considerably in 2022. So if you broadly look at it, and we cut it slightly differently. We remove some of the fringes of consumer out from the healthcare when we look at it. But broadly in our cut, 1.5 billion in 2018 to 2 billion in 2019 to 2.5 billion in 2020. So that's a big surprise. Again, did a cut of pre-COVID, post-COVID. I think that pace hasn't changed too much. Of course, the mix has changed. If you see the numbers, well, I've said it's not dipped. A lot of it in the other space, which is the health tech and other non-hospital, non-pure pharma space, where there has been, I think the number of deals have been large, a lot of venture sort of investments. People are seeing various, and we discussed in all the other panels also in terms of the investment in health tech, investment in technology. I think a lot of number of deals there, but all early stage, smaller investments. Interesting is on the pharma. I think of the 2.5, it's been 2.2 in the pharma space, of which 1.8 has been in 8 to 9 companies have taken 1.8 billion of capital. And the reason I say companies is maybe there are 2-3 investments in the same company. For example, Biocon Biologics, there were like 2-3 investments. But just 8 to 9 companies taking $1.8 billion of capital. Very, very surprisingly, 5 of them have been buyouts. So that's a significant sort of development and movement. I'll just pause at this in terms of carrying the discussion forward, but just these are some of the interesting trends that I noticed when I was re-looking at some of the earlier cuts that we used to do and we used to present at this summit.
So Satish, you spot on. I think pharma was not that big focus as being a provider focus earlier on. I think suddenly we have seen a shift in the pharma industry, and largely to the discovery side. The buyouts are also happening because we need IP to come in as playing a very important role. We always talk about deals which have happened actually, Satish, right? Yeah. But if I remember last year, there were a couple of deals which fall flat as well. They never happened, which were in the discussion. We all know about them, right? Yeah. What are the couple of reasons you think those deals never happened? You said uncertainty, I think the margins and maybe the high capital structure required. But what's your viewpoint there? Because I want to really listen to the investor's viewpoint when the deal never happens.
No, sure. So I think one is Shalil, the way I would look at it, it's an evolution. I think some of the large deals that we spoke about even last year, a lot of what was in the consolidation, let's say, theme. We have spoken on several years saying consolidation is, we've been always forecasting, saying it's coming, it makes all logical sense for it to come. I would say it's a little bit delayed in terms of it actually playing out. Having said that, the way I see it is, one might see as some deals didn't materialize. The way I see it as more progress, that those consolidation plays were at least attempted and a lot of serious effort and resources went into making those things happen. Having said that, you're right. Do we have a tick mark saying having concluded? Maybe not. It has fallen. Yes, couple of things. I think one is in terms of uncertainty of business outlook, and maybe as things panned out during the long evaluation cycle, maybe that has caused a bit of concern. Second is also in terms of the entire. I think most of private healthcare has been closely managed by founders, doctors, management teams. And I think it's an evolution process in terms of when you think about mergers, in terms of people thinking about their roles and how it changes as the mergers happen. I think those also it's an evolution process. A lot of progress made, even if you consider them as failed deals. I think a lot of progress made in terms of people getting comfortable around those and going into details. I think it is a harbinger for the good things to come, and far more consolidation to happen, and more deals to happen. I think broadly that's how I look at it.
No, so I think you very well summed it up that the maturity curve is moving up, in fact, right? So this consolidation may not hit last year, may not hit this year, but if the maturity is moving up, maybe next year or next to next year it will hit, and these deals will happen. So I agree with you. But the problem right now with us is that last 10 months, or let's say last 11 months, have changed everything, right? The care has actually moved out of the hospital. We are talking about telemedicine, probably in the range of 500% growth globally as well, right? Yeah. Even, things like very niche, let's say we're talking about some operations which are very niche operations happening. People are still doing pre-operational activities on telemedicine, and then only decide for a patient to come in and do an operation at that very particular point of time and day, and so when the doctors and everything is available. So a lot has changed actually. I mean, if you look at pharma industry has grown almost 2x now as e-pharma industry, deliveries and so on. Integration has also changed. So hospital care, home care, monitoring, patient care, critical disease management, pathology, which we always wanted. If you see 2019-18, we were discussing how do we integrate all of this into one. There's a big value chain which is there. But today, because of the pandemic, this integration has also happened. Now, obviously, as an investor lens, which we have used for last decade, those factors, those areas would have changed for you guys. And that has changed largely. So now, if you look at current environment, what is that change you're looking at it? And how would an investor now look at it?
No, sure. So first I'll speak from the business itself, and then I'll wear the investor hat. You're right. Lots have changed. I think when you broadly look at it, the key role that a healthcare provider saw for themselves and across hospitals, clinics, diagnostics, everyone, was in supply creation or capacity creation. There was always this thing that we are lagging demand, let's create capacities. So that was a primary focus of all the businesses. Of course, there was a bit of a mismatch also. I think all capacity got created in the tier 1 towns and the metro towns, and the demand is a little more evenly distributed, which at least the pandemic highlighted, right, in terms of how this has happened. Now that's one bit of context. And now with all the shocks and the thinking that people have gone through, I think there is a short-term pain. I think all of them have gone through a short-term pain in terms of footfalls lower, their operations suffering, and I think they've come out quite strongly. Even if you look at it in terms of quarters, quarter one, quarter two, people have come out very strongly. But I think one of the good things that is done, I know there is short-term pain, but the good thing is, I think people have rethought on their entire business model in terms of what they need to be focusing on. Where I'm coming from is from that pure just supply creation. I think there's been a lot of focus on in terms of productivity, in terms of efficiency, in terms of making that work. So in terms of it's not only creating additional supply, but with the supply and with the capacity that we have, how productive and how most efficient can you be? I think there's been a lot of focus that has gone. Two offshoots of that. I think one is people have then looked at what are we good at? If there is a mismatch, can we expand our reach? Instead of just a small geographical area, can you expand our reach?
True.
And that's where that technology and digital comes in. I think all the trends that you say fits in very, very well in that. Aided again by a couple of things. I think one is in terms of there is a mind shift from the provider's side. Definitely, there is a lot of behavioral change on the consumer side itself. We discussed in the earlier discussions also saying that without this pandemic, would it have been as easy for people to take up healthcare on a telemedicine or a digital, even where people were doing half-hearted one or half steps? I don't think it was being taken up so much as it is being done now. I think that has accelerated. I think that has facilitated a lot. So both sides, I think it takes two hands to clap, both from the consumer side and the provider side. We see a lot of changes happening there. So just the use of technology, digital, expanding your reach, and technology, I don't limit it only to how you reach consumer. I think just internally using technology in terms of either being in terms of quick analysis, AI, in terms of making your own systems efficient, having all the data at the right place. Healthcare has always lagged in the use of technology. If you compare it with some of the consumer companies, in terms of financial companies, we have always lagged. But I think that will go through those changes. I think I see a lot of people focusing on that quite a bit. And that's the investor lens to wear, right? In the sense that I think if you looked at the hospital model, it had a certain structure and a certain margin structure, which has gone through its different trends. We see a lot of it changing, even in terms of how the hospitals are focusing on efficiency, how they're focusing on different business models within if you wear the larger hat of saying, I'm here to provide expert healthcare services, what all models can I use to provide that? It necessarily doesn't have to be setting up large hospitals and having all the infrastructure. So as they have thought about it more, you see various new business models coming up. And that gives us all an opportunity in terms of looking at some of these models, in terms of helping funding that, because even these require investments. And the additional theme that will also play out is the consolidation play. Similarly, if I have to extend from hospital services, again in the pharma, you're right in terms of just the discovery and drug development has seen a lot of interest. And a lot of Indian companies are going into that league. While they were under the radar, smaller companies, they're all scaling up, reaching that size and scale. This is an industry, or this is a sector that requires investment. You need to have that headroom for, as the drug gets larger, you need to have that headroom for manufacturing, needs capital, slightly longer term capital. And that's where you've seen all investors also trying to bridge that funding gap and coming in with a slightly longer term capital. I think that's broadly in terms of the key changes that we see in terms of how the pandemic has played out, different focus changes of the different players, and how investors can help them in terms of making that journey into the next level.
Brilliant, Sadiq. I think last one part of the discussion which I want. I think time is always a short. I've already got indication from my team. It's important to discuss that part. I think changes which you talk about, we have seen some of the companies have moved up in the curve of market cap. Even if the listed companies you look at it, or even the investment side, right? Because the pandemic has given how important is the healthcare. Let's say this way. Okay, so people focus. And maybe when the normalcy comes and vaccine-induced normalcy comes, then do you expect this to go down? Do you expect to normalize it? Or you will expect that this will still continue for the next 5-10 years, let's say?
No, sure. No, good point you brought up. That was usually that's my third slide after I cover the PE investment, is to just, the way I do it is we just compare it with the BSE 100. We compare it with the BSE Pharma. They have an index of BSE Healthcare.
Yeah.
We include both pharma and healthcare. We split it both into pharma, healthcare, and we see in terms of what has happened. And usually have a running graph of each year moving forward. So if you look at the last 3 years, usual presentation that I keep making is with all the uncertainties, a lot of models evolving, people looking inwards. I think we have always lagged the BSE 100, both healthcare and the pharma. The last 3 years, every time I've presented, Healthcare has been negative for 2 of those 3 years. Pharma has been negative all the 3 years when you compare it with the BSE 100. So we have to put that context also in mind and put it in perspective that the last 3 years, which is almost like the 36 months, pharma has been negative returns and has lagged the BSE 100. I think very interestingly, if you look at now the last bucket, which is the 12 months leading to now the November 30th, now there's a huge dip in between, of course, like all the stocks went through, be it any other sector. But of course, the dip in healthcare and pharma has been less than what it was in the earlier. So in a sense, it's almost like a catch up. But forget the dip. Even if you take point to point, which is saying that December 1st to November 30th, I think this is 1 year where both healthcare and pharma has caught up. One is the traditional people. You talk about liquidity. These are safer sectors. So people have said that there are certain sectors which might be very uncertain in terms of during lockdown, during uncertainty. People have seen this as, let's say, a safer sector and hence have moved investments there, which is an acceptable one, which is a way of saying catch up. But the way I see it is it's also backing some trends in the sense that even if I buy that argument for a pharma company, it's not the same for healthcare services. I think healthcare services has gone through its pain. I think we've all spoken in terms of footfall being low, elective being low. They've all gone through that pain. Irrespective of that, and just to give you numbers, I think point to point, if BSE 100 was 14%, pharma was in excess of 60%, healthcare services was in excess of 40%, right? Now, pharma, even if you say, is understandable because it's like a secular growth, people back that. I think in healthcare services, while there has been pain, I think people have realized that there is both these sectors have a very important contributor to the overall economy situation in terms of they have a role to play in this entire tackling this pandemic. People have noticed the business changes that both the sectors have done, which is in terms of pharma also there's a reorientation in terms of, let's say, export generics to a little more complex molecules, more innovator molecules, more into manufacturing, taking in the China gap. So they've gone through many such changes. Domestic market has been extremely strong. I think it's backing those themes rather than just a liquidity flow that some of these companies have done extremely well during this period. Now, when you look at it, I broadly look at it saying healthcare has finally found its place. People have recognized the role that it plays in the overall scenario. There is potential. And I guess that's how we should also read it. Now, will it be at the same sort of high multiples? No. But is there value to be created even from here on? Definitely, yes. And that's some of the themes that we discussed. And this is not just the internal market theme. Even if you look at it in the larger global scenario, there is a lot of role that both these sectors can play in terms of creating value because they're all backing, all that investments are going into backing some relevant business model changes that are happening in both these industries.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sadiq. I think you nailed it when you said, and I also feel this, right? Because if you see vaccine itself used to take 4 years, 5 years to come in. Any effective, decent vaccine. Today, I think it's less than 7-8 months where you're already talking about multiple candidates of vaccines in successful way being implemented. That has brought in a revolution in the industry, let me tell you.
Not true.
Healthcare perspective also globally, even the developed, most mature healthcare countries have understood the technology role in the healthcare. I think that's where I would say the intersection has started and will never come back. So you're right. I mean, it's not a just local trend, but a global trend that backing these trends. I think the sector will become a very prominent sector and a very differentiated sector as well.
No, just to add to your point, Salil, I know we're running out of time, but this is also an extremely important year. I think when we spoke of vaccine and the thing, but there's the logistics of getting people vaccinated. Now, whichever policy you adopt, you don't have to have 100%, maybe it's a different percentage or anything. Yeah. Whatever be it, it's very, very large. And can it be done by one or two players? Can it be done by government alone? Can it be done by private sector alone? Definitely not. I think it's a huge ecosystem play. I think very interesting to watch the next 1 year or more, 1 to 2 years, in terms of how this entire system comes together, works together to get this is a very, very big job. How this gets done is a learning in itself, even if it's not only for that.
I think, some people have started saying we should adopt the Aadhaar operational logistics. If you remember, when Aadhaar was launched, India was never thought to be achieving that kind of scale.
Yeah.
And I think, it's fair to say that if we want to really implement vaccine in the country like India, I think we have to adopt some learnings from Aadhaar implementation to take it forward. But, it's just the parallel which I'm drawing. Thank you very much, Satish. We can discuss whole day. Let me tell you, we have got so much to discuss. But we, thank you very much for your viewpoint. And I think investors' viewpoint is the first viewpoint everybody will look forward for. So with this, I would say thank you very much for your time.
No, pleasure, Salil. Thanks so much for this.